My first question is there's been a lot of discussion regarding the changes made to healers, and I wanted to ask you specifically about White Mage. I know we've gotten a lot of questions about White Mage lately, but after seeing all the adjustments made to the 3 different healer classes, it appears, in my opinion, White Mage still lacks the raid utility that the other healers bring to the table. Specifically, Scholar still has Chain Stratagem, and despite the adjustments made to Astro's cards, and specifically Balance, they can still, both of those abilities provide a DPS buff to the party, whereas White Mage White Mage does not have that ability. Additionally, Scholar and Astro have more mobility while being able to DPS. So I'm wondering if you feel like you would ever address this, or are you aware of these concerns?
First and foremost, Shadowbringers hasn't come out yet, and I don't think we would say that we would readjust or revisit the balance adjustment before the game has launched, first of all. So, of course, with the different adjustments, it may give the impression that White Mage may have less raid utility, but I think a lot of the adjustments have been applied so that, of course, we're looking at the 3 different jobs, and with the White Mage specifically, a lot of the sort of offensive elements of it has been reflected back onto the White Mage itself, rather than sort of contributing to the rest of the party members. So I can sit here and try to explain it verbally all that I could, but I'm sure people will still only sense, or people might make a comment about, we're still unsure and whatnot. So, I mean, we're only 2 weeks away from Shadowbringers, so we encourage you to actually try it out. And of course, 4 weeks after the launch, we'll open up the Savage tier. And so our purpose is for our players to enjoy the game and to have fun with the different content. And I'm sure you'll see that with the changes, your skill rotations will change as well. And so we encourage people to just try it out, see it firsthand, debate about it then, and then with the feedback that we are receiving from our players, then we would look at what needs to be addressed.
Has there been any thought given to revising the experience of going through older expansion story quests to perhaps streamline them for new players who opt to go through them rather than using the jump potion? Several of the staff at Easy Allies who have tried to play with me to catch up in preparation for Shadowbringers have expressed their frustration progressing through older content, specifically eye level restrictions once you hit the 50 and 60 content that is required to actually advance in the story.
We actually are addressing this, and we are revisiting the rewards that you can receive through the main story quests that you go through, and we did adjust it so that the item level will meet what is required for these mainline quests. And so yeah, it was very unfortunate that your staff members the timing was bad, that we still have yet to make that adjustment, and we're really sorry that they have to experience those frustrations, but we are making it so that even if you start completely anew, as long as you're following the main scenario quests, you should be receiving the gear necessary to have that island level to progress through the story. So we're hoping that it will allow for much smoother progression. One more thing, with the earlier content, right after A Realm Reborn, so patches 2.1 through 2.3, we do acknowledge that there are a lot of quests that you have to get through, and there have been player feedback saying that people get tired of playing through those smaller quests. So we do intend on addressing that. I'm afraid it's not at the launch of Shadowbringers, but sometime during the 5.x patch series, in order to make it more streamlined, so to speak, slim, and have it more compact so that we can have our players concentrate more and focus on the mainline story to get through the content quicker so that they can catch up.
After seeing the demand for older versions of World of Warcraft, Blizzard finally made it possible with the announcement of World of Warcraft Classic. It's almost been a decade since Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 launched, and many years since anyone has had a chance to play it. Would you ever consider bringing back a limited amount of servers with some version of the 1.x series for players to experience it?
お分かりになってるかと思いますが、何かしらの形で、限定サーバーでもいいので、1.0をクラシックサーバー的な形で復活させるご予定は
ナイトメア
So, of course, for those players who have started Final Fantasy XIV with A Realm Reborn and just fell in love with the game, hear about these legacy players and how they describe 1.0 through 1.x series, and they have that desire of, oh, I want to experience that too. And we totally understand. We acknowledge that that request is there, but those are the people who do not know just how scary 1.0, the original Final Fantasy XIV is.
一体何人のプレイヤーが
You couldn't imagine how many people just dropped out from 1.0 at that time. And so if we were to hypothetically have some kind of classic server available, we might potentially see people who currently enjoy Final Fantasy XIV look at just how bad it is and just drop out. So I'm afraid we don't have any plans to do something like that just yet or at all.
ちなみにコミュニティチームのトップ2人がいるんだけど、君らやりたいかい？
So we actually have community teams that are heads of community teams in each of our regions. Would you like to play something like that? Nope.
I would like to follow up on an answer you gave during the media event. One of the influencers asked about the status of the weapons refrain in Ultimate Coil of Bahamut once we enter Shadowbringers. My question is, you said that you would not be able to do it unsynced, that you would have to do it at the level restriction still. Is that indefinitely, or will you consider at some point, at any point in the future, allowing it to be done unsynced beyond like the level restriction essentially?
まだ絶
Of course, with the ultimate battles, we still just have those two. And with Shadowbringers coming up, we are developing another ultimate battle, aiming for 5.1 timing. And of course, the concept of this being the sort of ultimate challenge of strength, we want to sort of retain that challenge. We want to make sure we keep that sort of power. And so, of course, we can't say there is no possibility that we will allow for players to go into it unsynced, but it's not going to be anytime in the near future.
There's a concern that if at some point it can't be done to let less skilled players just at least enjoy it, to see the spectacle, it will hasten it to become what we've called dead content. That it'll hasten it not having, the player base won't have as much of an interest to do it. Even top raters, they will move on to the newer ones and it will become abandoned. And because only the very skilled players can do it, no one else will be able to see it. And so that's just a concern that I wanted to express on behalf of them. And the follow-up question on that is, I'm curious why. I understand and I obviously respect the decision to reward the players who put in the effort, but at the same time, back in A Realm Reborn, you introduced a fight called Second Coil Bahamut Savage, and as soon as Heaven's Ward launched, players were able to jump in and do that unsynced immediately. It was still very challenging, but at like this point, I'm curious why it was allowed. That one was allowed to be done immediately, and this one you're deciding to wait.
最大のポイントはリワードです。サベージ
So with that question, the biggest reason is the rewards. Of course, with Second Coil of Bahamut Savage, there wasn't really a very special reward that you can get. Plus, that content itself was a sort of test of how we release Savage content. And so that's why we made the decision that we can allow for unsynced players to go into the content. But with the Ultimate Battle series, you get that legend title, and so if we were to consider removing that restriction of removing the level sync and having more people join in and getting that title, as well as the shiny shiny weapons that have that gold glow, it seems kind of weird. So if we were to set it to, if we're worried about people not coming in and consider allowing for going into the content unsync, maybe we would have to look at options like not allowing for those players to receive the same kind of rewards that the Ultimate players would do, because it would undo that sort of effort that the players that went ahead of them put into the content and their pride, and it would kind of trample over their pride. And we acknowledge the concern about potentially these content becoming a dead content, so to speak, as we have more content coming out. But we still see players that just recently started playing Final Fantasy XIV and clearing and defeating the ultimate weapons refrain, and then going back and also trying Unending Coil of Bahamut as well. And there are quite a few amount of players that still take on that challenge and still succeed. So we still want to make sure that we have that available for players to come back to it, even if a lot of time has elapsed, and want that sort of challenge and have that ultimate challenge. And plus, the fact that there is such a limited title and a limited reward motivates them, and it's just such a what drives those players to want to challenge this content. So I think for the time being, we have no desire to remove the restrictions of unsyncing your character. Plus, we still feel that it's not going to be a dead content just yet.
Final Fantasy XIV being a game that's constantly being updated, and it gets updated at a pretty frequent pace. And it's been a long time that your team is working on this game. A lot of the talk in media right now, at least here, is revolving around crunch in game development, and as a game as a service. Do you ever feel that it's a bit challenging in terms of trying to? Do you ever experience that there are periods where you have intensive crunch, that you see it maybe impact your team? What do you do to kind of like remedy that? And have all these years, do you feel it's ever taken a toll on the team or you personally? Or, are you still as passionate today as you were when you first took over development for Realm Reborn?
So first and foremost, of course, we're all continuously working on the title with passion, or else we wouldn't be able to deliver content with such high quality. And I think with team members, especially those who are in a sort of lead position, not just in the development team, but in our community as well, we have to have that sort of passion and drive, and we feel that it hasn't decreased in any way. Plus, in terms of opportunities, when certain team members feel that they want to move on in their career outside of 14, we help them. We do provide support to help them find what other projects within Square Enix are they do they want to move to, and we do support the transfer of our team members when necessary, because we don't want to restrict anybody, we don't want to hold anybody back either. So we do have that as our sort of base, and then we have more. And of course, with regard to what we call crunch time, if we were to be developing with the same sort of intensity as crunch time, we would not have lasted for 6 years. The fact that we have content coming out frequently at a regular pace is proof that we are not constantly in crunch time. We do make sure that we allow for more wiggle room and leniency as well. It would be impossible to maintain such an intensive work environment. But at the same time, there is that sort of struggle, because with, I think, any video game title, the more effort you put into it, the more you pay attention to it, the quality just becomes better. It comes out more powered up. And those who are more passionate than those who have the passion always have that drive of, I want to make it better. Even if it's a little bit, I want to continue to make it better. And just they rather than going out for drinks or having fun or relax, and I would rather be creating, I would rather be making and working on development, and they actually find that to be very enjoyable. Yoshida himself is that kind of person, definitely. So it's harder for them to be told, no, you have to get away from working, because it's not really work to them, it's something that they enjoy. So Yoshida needs to be mindful of that as well, and he wants to take care of those people who has that drive and maintain that motivation. But of course, we do understand that it might take a physical toll on our team members' bodies. So we do mandate breaks. For example, each team member must take Sunday off, and if certain people just push themselves and worked a Saturday, then after our Shadowbringers has mastered up, we will require for them to take a break afterward, so that they can rest. And with that kind of system, I think we have maintained a good track record of people staying healthy. Nobody has gotten really ill or anything in these last 9 years, actually, throughout the development of Final Fantasy XIV. If anything, if anybody would fall ill, Yoshida might be the first person to do so.
ちょっと今ので一個補足があって、その
Let me clarify on the taking a break segment. Let's see. Of course, we mandate our developers to take Sunday off, and if certain development team members wanted to work on a Saturday, which is supposed to be a day you're not supposed to work, and if that continues for multiple weeks, we will require for them to take an extended break. Say if they had used up a few weekend days, we would require for them to take maybe like a week break or a 2-week break after the expansion has launched, because we don't want to have them come to work when they're not supposed to and lose out on those breaks. So it's not just a matter of taking a short break, but it's more of like a combined sort of extended break.
最近よく言うよ。会社に来るな休め。
But sometimes, yeah, we do tell our development team members, like, don't come to work, just take a rest.
そのくせ開発チームには言われるんだけどね、あなたが一番会社に来てるでしょって。
But they would retort back, well, but Yoshida-san, you're the one who's always at work.
俺は好きだからいいんだよって。
And he would tell them, well, I like doing what I do, so I'm fine.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.